Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the WEC SIA Staffing Insights series. I'm Brian Wallins, Research Manager with Staffing Industry Analysts, and excited to be the guest host here today, particularly because I'm joined by a very special guest, John Healy. John is a very active expert around the future of work and is also a notable workers' rights advocate. So welcome, John. It's good to see you again.
Excellent to be here, Brian. Look forward to continuing some of the conversation we had at Phoenix at your gig economy event.
Absolutely, that was a lot of fun. But really, I just wanted to kind of start off high level, big picture view of things. For years, even pre-pandemic, the idea of digital transformation was a big theme that across many organizations spanning most industries. But really, kind of since COVID, there's been this sudden, really kind of stunning acceleration in the adoption of digital technology on a global scale, and the way people are going about finding work and how organizations are sourcing them has really kind of been no exception to this, with the shift that we've seen to platform work, these two-sided digital marketplaces. And I'm not really referring to the ride-sharing apps, some of the meal delivery apps, but the many millions of jobs you see worldwide, not just in commercial segments, but increasingly in knowledge work for IT occupations, marketing, creative, healthcare has been a big one. My question for you is, John, I know this is something you've paid very close attention to for some time. How do you see this shift to platform work playing out, and what are the implications to the traditional staffing paradigms?
It's a fun question, and we're going to try and keep this conversation brief. So there's going to be a lot of things that maybe we can follow up on even coming out of it. But I think it's base. What we've clearly come to recognize is that there are opportunities for everyone to become far more efficient by using technology. If I think of some of the work that we're doing with the World Employment Confederation's Blockchain Taskforce, we're looking at ways that we can put the ownership and control of the data that a worker provides to gain access to work in the hands of the worker, allow them to transfer that information around. We think through that, we have opportunity to take 2 weeks out of that time period of I need a job to I'm receiving a paycheck, equally from the same 2 weeks on I need work done to I'm actually getting productivity. And then for governments around the world, that's 2 weeks I'm not paying social welfare. So now as we start thinking about wellness, that starts coming in. So at a practical level, the platforms are giving us opportunities by being digital to streamline a lot of the processes. Now, we absolutely have some challenges from a labor law perspective and the way some of our processes are designed, because they're designed for a very manual world, and those things create some disruption into a process. So I think that's out there. But I think beyond that, the platforms, it's really about freeing up the opportunity for the passion economy, as you hear referred to. If you've got kids and they're into TikTok or they're into their Instagram and their creator economy that's emerged out there right now, we're seeing that the barriers to entry are very different. I'm not going to say that they're lower, because the technology requires something a little bit different, but it requires an experience that's very much like what we want as a consumer. It's, if you want to order something, Brian, you see an ad today, or you get a blurb that comes in that tells you something's available. A friend tells you something about something on a podcast. You can have that item in your house tomorrow. But when we start thinking about work and we say, oh, well, I need to go into an office to fill out some paperwork, and then I need to get an I-9 form done, and it's going to take 3 weeks to do a background check, and like that stuff's got to go away. So I think what we're really seeing is organizations who are willing to push the boundaries and recreate process, are willing to scrap some of their existing paradigms and change the way that they're approaching things. That's what's starting to open up the marketplace. And for those in the staffing industry, I look at, that there are some organizations who have really done a good job of declaring just how they're making this movement, what their adoption rates are, first for workers, then you're seeing it on their client side of things, and looking at that. It's not an overnight process. It doesn't just happen instantaneously, but the opportunities are leading to benefits, no question about it.
Absolutely. And I think, there are a number of benefits as it comes to the efficiencies that platforms can bring. One is around reskilling and upskilling, and I know that's a major area that you see some of the activity. Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, the whole learning and development world's been thrown upside down. And now we all have the opportunity. It's funny, someone had asked me some of the education background credentials that I had along the way, and I started listing through, and I was going through my career. And if I look, early on, it's which university did you go to, and you're doing this, and then it's okay, you took the executive education at that university, and went through that. And now if I look over the last 5 years, the types of learning and micro learning credentials that I've been able to pick up, and the ease of moving through that has radically changed the way I learn, and the opportunities, the speed at which I can learn and then deploy those new skills along the way. That stuff's all coming into play. And it's fun seeing entirely new marketplaces emerge. But I go back, I think it was Microsoft put the stat out. By 2025, 149 million digital jobs that we've got a shortfall of. We just don't have enough people to go around. Those people aren't going to just suddenly emerge. And I think employers need to be really careful that there's a little bit of brand arrogance going on out there, where they feel like, well, I can get them because we've got a good brand in the marketplace. Not everyone's going to get them. And it's going to require some very different thinking in that approach to how do I utilize labor to get work done.
Absolutely. Just shifting gears a little bit, another kind of sub-segment of platform work is something that we just started to kind of scratch the surface on about the last time that we spoke. I know it's something you find fascinating, as I do as well. And that's the idea and opportunity around crowdsourcing platforms. I'm curious, in your mind, what makes crowdsourcing platforms so compelling, and what role do you envision them playing in the future work?
Really fun one, and you're right. This is one that gets me fired up, and I'm going to tie it back to some research that you guys have done. At your gig economy event, you talked about how kind of the hottest topic out there was tied to direct sourcing and talent communities, right? Everyone, that's their new thing that they're building. But for what end? And when you start talking to people, it's, well, I want to build up my applicant pool. Well, okay, but so you want to create a job board? Like you want to just create a pool full of people that might be someone that you could do? What if you tapped into their brains once they entered that community? What if you asked them to contribute to some ideas or help you deal with some of the more challenging problems that you're facing as a company? As someone said to me once, I spent time with an executive, I'll keep his name out of it, but he said, when a problem has reached the CEO's desk, the odds of it being solved internally are pretty low. Mm-hmm. Because if they knew how to solve it, they already would have. And so you're seeing these opportunities for people to start tapping into different communities of talent all over the world. And you can go through organizations, Standard Chartered Bank out of Australia, GE did some amazing things. Deloitte has done some really cool things here. But my favorite example is NASA. So the US Space Agency, some amazing things. So it began when they had a 75% budget cut in one area, Health and Human Services area. Well, they still needed astronauts to be safe as they went out. And they collaborated what is now the Laboratory of Innovation Sciences at Harvard and started doing some crowdsourcing. And when you look at NASA now, the way that they kind of attack a problem is looking at it very differently. So at SIA and in the staffing industry for years, we've talked about total talent, right? We want to merge that full-time and the contingent workforce, get through all of that. At NASA, 17,000 full-time employees, 50,000 contract workers. They have documented ideas from 110 million global citizens. Pause and think, 110 million global citizens. So when they're solving a problem, they're not just looking to the 17,000 employees or the 67,000 workers that they control. They're going out to the world to say, help us solve that. And now if you start thinking, connect back to those direct sourcing platforms, or think of some of the outsourcing companies who have 1 million people working behind their firewall in some capacity for their clients, and say, what could I do, even from a diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective, if I put these problems out to all of these people? Now, think of in India, where you have a very structured hierarchical system. And if you push that problem out to everyone, and that young girl in a tier 3 city in India who has a beautiful mind and the ideas and the creativity and the talent to execute something, but in the traditional hierarchy would take 10 years before her ideas could be put face first in front of a customer, now goes out and wins a contest to get something done. It's amazing. And so, crowdsourcing to me is the great unknown for many companies. I look to organizations like Open Assembly or the Center for the Transformation of Work, who are really helping build some of the standards and the leadership and the case studies to help organizations figure out how to get some of this done. So just challenge everyone to think a little bit bolder and broader than they have, because crowdsourcing is a massive opportunity for all of us, but it requires rethinking the way we configure work without question.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, truly, there's power in numbers when you think about crowdsourcing platforms. Listen, John, that's all the time that we have. I've really enjoyed connecting as always. Very insightful. And thanks to all of you for listening. Until next time.
Yeah, and join us in this conversation. That's the key, is no one has all the answers. So let's just keep the dialogue going. Thanks.
Great.